What's up, you guys? It's Cody coming back at you with another video, and we got the 7.3 here in the background. Now this is basically a revised version of one of the first videos that I ever put up on YouTube, and it is the cost of daily driving a 7.3 Powerstroke. So that video got a lot of traction, so obviously there's a lot of information in there that people want to hear, but since it was one of my first videos, I was still super awkward in front of the camera. The quality was poor. It's just not a very good video, so I wanted to make a better version for you guys because I'm much better at it now. So this is, again, the cost of daily driving a 7.3 Powerstroke. This is my 7.3. Yes, it is my daily driver. Now, it is sitting on 37-inch tires, and I do live in Southern California, so you know, different sizes and brands of tires are going to cost different amounts. Cost of living is different in different areas, so the cost of the truck is going to be different, stuff like that. So take all that into consideration, but if you're looking into buying a 7.3 Powerstroke, I'm going to give you all this information that I can to the best of my knowledge, and hopefully it helps you. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you're new here, please subscribe. I make new videos every couple days on my truck. Please join the community and enjoy the video. Alright, you guys, so in this video we're going to talk about tons of things. We're going to talk about the price of these trucks in general. We're going to talk about oil changes and oil filters, fuel filters, air filters, tires, registration, brakes, the cost of fuel, all kinds of stuff. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the price of these trucks in general. Now, if you've already been searching for one of these trucks, then you already know that they can get pretty pricey. Because they stopped making them in 2003 and they're known as one of the most reliable diesel motors out there, they're getting harder and harder to find because they're older and they're known for their reliability, so they're pretty expensive. I've seen ones in my area. Now again, I live in Southern California, so it can be different everywhere, but I've seen them in my area with low miles in good clean condition with nice lifts and tires and wheels for as much as $25,000 to $27,000. So obviously that's a lot of money for a truck that they stopped making in 2003, and of course depending on where you are, they could be a lot cheaper than that, but that's just based off of where I am and what I've seen. Now mine had 132,000 miles on it when I bought it. It's a crew cab long bed, and I paid $15,000 for it. I actually think that's a pretty good deal because I've seen them with this mileage and in this condition for way more than $15,000, again, in my area. So obviously you can find one with higher miles and in beat up condition, or you know, depending on where you live, they could be pretty cheap too. You can find them. I've seen some for sale for a few $1,000s, or people have told me that they got theirs for a few $1,000s with like 300,000 miles on it, and they live, you know, out here in the middle of nowhere in some other state. So yes, it's possible to find them for cheaper. They're not going to be that expensive everywhere. Again, that's just where I am, so take that in consideration. But that being said, coming from someone that has one, I highly recommend them. If you can find one for a good deal and you can afford it and you want this truck, I recommend it. Super reliable. Mine never gives me any problems and I love it. So next, let's get into the cost of fuel. Now, obviously, driving these trucks, they're not going to get the best fuel economy, especially compared to like a car. And unfortunately, right now here in SoCal, diesel is more expensive than gas. It didn't used to be like that, but right now it is. I think right now diesel at Chevron is about $4.20 a gallon. So that's a pretty expensive, especially considering I only get about 11 city, 15 highway in my truck. Now I think that has a lot to do with the 37s and the fact that I live in basically Los Angeles County, so the traffic is really bad. It's a lot of stop and go. But a lot of people that live in like more rural areas and have done more work to their trucks can get in the mid-teens to high teens city, 20, 21 highway, so they can get decent fuel economy. I'm working on mine right now by making changes to the truck, but they don't get the best fuel economy, nothing compared to a car, and diesel's pretty expensive. So the other thing about the diesel is you want to add some type of fuel additive to your tank. If not every fill up, then at least every couple fill ups. So you can either add 2-stroke oil or like Lucas fuel injector cleaner or something like that. I definitely recommend that. Those are a few dollars a bottle, so that's not going to break the bank, but I definitely recommend doing that when you fill up. The next thing we'll talk about is the fuel filter on these trucks. So I just did mine not too long ago. They recommend it. They say every 15,000 miles. That seems a little high to me. I like to do mine every other oil change, and I think it's like $25 to $35 for a fuel filter for these trucks. So you don't have to do it very often. Like I said, I do it every other oil change. So going into that, oil changes. If you buy the oil yourself, I don't get the T6 synthetic, I get the non-synthetic. I think it's T3 Shell Rotella non-synthetic motor oil for this truck. It's about 50 bucks for the oil and another 10 bucks for the oil filter. I do the oil changes myself. So I do oil changes every they recommend 5,000 miles for regular driving use, and then 3,000 miles for heavy driving use if you use it for a work truck or you tow a lot. So I go about every 4,000 or 5,000 miles, and then again I do my fuel filter every other oil change, so that's anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 miles for the fuel filter. Now if you take this in to get done, it's going to cost you a lot more to get the oil change done for you. It's going to be anywhere from $100 to $150 depending on what type of shop you go to, or if you know the person or whatever. So it's a lot more expensive than obviously on like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla, something like that. Now next we could talk about tires, but like I said, tires are going to vary so much. I don't even know how much a stock size set of tires for this truck costs, because I've never had stock size tires on my 7.3. 35s, you know, you could get Toyo Open Countries or BFG All Terrains or whatever. They're going to vary in price. So I have 37-inch Toyo Open Country mud terrains, and I paid $1,600 for all 4 tires installed. So that gives you an idea if you're gonna get 37-inch tires. Again, depending on the type, there's Nitto Trail Grapplers, there's BF Goodrich mud terrains, there's Arturo Trail Blades, or like a cheap version of the, like a knockoff version of the Toyo Open Countries. So again, but whatever size tire or type of tire you want, you can look up the price of them and find that, no problem. So next, let's talk about registration. Now, registration in California is more expensive than most places, but because the truck is so big and weighs so much, I pay about $300 a year for registration, and I have to smog the truck every other year, and that usually costs about $80, unfortunately. Again, you know, I'm stuck here in California. I wish I could leave, but I got my family and my career here, so it is what it is. You just have to overpay for everything and basically give up your rights as an American citizen living here. So next is brakes. Now, I just did the rear brake pads on my truck, and that was about, I didn't get cheap brakes, but I don't have like special slotted brake discs either. I have regular stock rotors, and then some good brake pads were about 50 bucks for the rear. And then I got new pads and rotors for the front. I think it was about $300 for the rotors and pads for the front, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that exactly. Next, we could talk about the air filter. Now, a lot of people, they change their stock air filter to a cold air intake. I recommend that, but I don't recommend going with K&N, and I don't really recommend going with an oiled filter on these. So I recommend you get a cold air intake kit that has a dry, washable, reusable filter, and you can wash that filter depending on which brand or which filter you get. It'll tell you how often to wash it. So cold air intake kit like that can cost you anywhere from, you can make a custom kit where they sell, you just buy exhaust tubing and weld it up and buy just the filter, and that can cost you, I think, as little as like 50 bucks. Or there's like Banks cold air intake kits that cost like $300. So there's all kinds of different variables there. As far as the stock air filter, the paper air filter goes, I don't even know how much that costs. I've never had it on my truck. Next, we could talk about insurance. Now, insurance for these trucks is pretty expensive. I asked my insurance why I pay so much for insurance, and they basically said that since the truck is so big and weighs so much, they expect a lot more damage to be done in the event of an accident. So you actually do pay a lot for a truck like this, even comparable to like a sports car. I got quoted for a C6 Corvette one time, and it was only like $5 of difference. I think it was actually $5 less for the Corvette than it was for this truck. So they are kind of expensive to insure, probably even more so if you're young. So take that into consideration. Alright, you guys, so that's pretty much it. So there's other major things we could talk about, like the transmission, but to be honest with you, transmissions can last different lengths of times depending on many different factors. Mine was replaced at about 130,000 miles. Some people had tow constantly and they've gone 250,000 miles on the stock transmission, and some people have had to replace them at 80,000 miles and they rarely tow. So I don't really know exactly what's up with that. Maybe just a combination of driving habits and maintenance and stuff like that. So that can vary. But I think a transmission rebuild should cost you around $3,000 for a factory transmission rebuild. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Fuel injectors. A lot of people upgrade their fuel injectors when they go out, but I think a stock set of fuel injectors should cost about $1,200 or so, just for the injectors, plus installation, depending on if you do it yourself, and then how much a mechanic would charge you. I'm not sure. I'm still on stock injectors. But that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's not the most entertaining video, but I really made this one more for education purposes and just to kind of help some people out that are curious. A lot of my other videos are more entertainment based and putting new parts on my truck for fun and making videos about it. So again, please check out my other videos. I think you'll enjoy them. Please subscribe, join the community, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.